Hello, I am back. It's Abigail Horn here from Team LJ, Team Lisa Johnson, with a very, very amazing guest that I will be speaking to, who is going to be your mindset expert within Velocity with Lisa Johnson. And I know that some of you are going to be sitting there now, rubbing your hands together, thinking, please let it be her. Please let it be her. So hang on. Without further ado, ta-da!
It's me.
Oh, it's Renee. Right, Renee is legendary. I do not say that lightly. She is everyone's secret weapon. I don't even know if that's a secret. I feel like everyone says that you are like the person that is such a number one support to them. You support lots of Lisa's clients, yeah, in so many different ways, so many different programs. And she brings you in for a reason. You get results, you get people moving, you get people unstuck. So I could go on about you all day. You know, I'm your number one fangirl. So I'm going to say, Renee, do you want to tell people a little bit about you and what it is that you do? And then we'll chat a little bit about Velocity as well.
Yeah. So I really like with my mindset, I like to bring in like the behavioral side of things and the emotional side of things and help you see it in that logistical way. So I like blending them together because I really find that so many people and so many other coaches like to focus on almost like a toxic positivity state where it's just going from like a negative mindset straight to a positive one. And that doesn't always help us. And sometimes that almost makes like the shame and the guilt worse. So I really like bringing things into that logistical side so it makes sense. So there's strategy behind it. You have actionable, tangible steps, which is what's going to help you with that practice consistently. Because along with the emotional side, we also have to have that accountability side. And the accountability side is usually what gets left out in the teachings. And so I'll be bringing that into the program with monthly calls, and I'll be in the group as well to help you through any of the things that you are stuck with or can't seem to get by or have any shame, guilt, and fear around, and I'll be there for that.
And you know what? You've got the most calming, yet totally controlled way about you. So everything that you don't waste words, and I love people that don't waste words. Everything that you say has got meaning and importance, and you just get people thinking in a different way. And I don't say that from sitting in like on the sidelines. I say that from even what you do with us as a team. So obviously some things are confidential, some things we talk about in front of each other. And so one of us can be having an upset, a moment, something that is holding us back. And then we all just brace ourselves and we just see Renee is typing. That's the little message that comes up at the bottom of our Slack channel. And everybody just goes, oh, because we know that whatever you say is going to be said without the emotion of it almost, and just it will give everybody clarity on the situation and help us reframe things. And that's not just me, that's other people. And I don't think Lisa would mind me saying that's her as well. So you support Lisa through these challenges that we all get as business owners. They don't stop just when you're like successful. Like in fact, they probably get more so, right? Like different things.
Absolutely. And the thing with mindset that I find is it's never done. Like it's something that you have to stay consistent in. It's almost like I always think of like Shrek with like the onion analogy. Like there's so many different layers. And the moment that you feel like, oh, I've gotten through this one, it's like that spiral staircase of awareness where it's just like it's the same problem, but at a different level at that point. And what you're going through at stage one is what you'll still question at stage two. So it's like making that first $10,000 to making that first 100,000 to making the first million. The fears and the thoughts and the concepts are all still there because there's nothing, some of them are really quick and you can get through them, and then some of them are more deep rooted and you have to like practice those consistently and always remind yourself.
And you know as well as I do, you can give people all the tools, all the strategies, all the things, all the actions to go away with. But if something's going on for them, something, whether it be a big thing or a small thing, it doesn't matter, just something that's preventing them from actually doing that thing, they're not going to do it. Like they're not going to take the action. They're not going to follow the steps.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's not, and I don't see it as a nice to have. I don't see you as sort of a cherry on the top. I see you as like a really core, essential thing that is going on in here. So can I ask for maybe some examples? you are working in lots of different programs. You are doing lots of different things with one-to-one clients. What are the things that you see coming up the most? Like what can we expect to sort of see in this program?
Mhm. Yeah, so a lot of the fears that I see that I help people work through is like the fear of visibility and even the fear of announcing their business. So many people are even scared to start posting or start announcing because they're worried about what family and friends are going to think. They're worried about, like wanting to say things that not controversial, but they'll say things that might upset some certain family members with like examples of like family histories and things like that. So I help with that. I'll also help with even just like the confidence with the money side of things, because there's always a fear of success and there's always like a fear of failure. And sometimes there's also like the fear of both. And when you're stuck in that limbo, it can be really hard to even like get out of that analysis paralysis because you don't want to fail and you don't want to succeed. And so the fear of success and failure, I will help with a lot. Off the top of my head, what else is there? The judgment of others is one of there's so many. Even like the judgment of others is like a really big thing. The fear of like getting trolled, all those types of things. And it's even like one of the biggest things that I see too is people have a fear of burnout. And so they'll be proactive in their to prevent burnout that they're not showing up in other areas. So they almost like proactively sabotage themselves so they don't have to worry about other things being taken away.
And that is, I'm so glad that you've brought that up, because obviously this whole sort of program, mastermind, hybrid accelerator experience is definitely something that is to help people avoid going into burnout. This is about building success on their terms, about giving attention to all areas of their life, including the financial areas, because that's still really, really important, right? And sort of building some growth in that area can maybe take some of the pressure off in other areas as well.
Yeah.
So that's great to know that obviously you're supporting with that element of it as well. So obviously they've got these monthly calls. How do you prepare for one of those? So what I mean by that is, are you looking at common things coming up in the group, or do you go at that call with sort of a teach in mind, or is it an open Q&A? Is it a mixture of all those things? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of all of it. So when it's an open Q&A, I'll actually have some people submit questions beforehand. And then that way they can get their questions answered if they can't show up live. And so I'll use that almost as like a script for all of the information that has to come through, and then people can ask the questions and we can do back and forth that way. I usually have something that I want to talk about that I see as a common factor that's happening. One thing that I notice a lot too that I like to bring up is people tend to drop off their motivation within the 3-week mark. Okay. And so when I see that 3-week mark hit, that's where I start making the mindset more about like continuing and the consistency side of things. So I'll see what people's natural habits are, and then I'll also see what's coming up in the group. So I'll bring up general things that are happening and what they would see in that timeline that they're experiencing. And then I'll also bring up, like if there's comments or issues that are happening in the group that they're addressing, it's like, oh, like this visibility one's really good. So we'll have like a whole structure and teaching on that. And I'll always have like my notebook beside me, and it's always like a full outline of everything that I want to talk about.
Is that 3-week mark? Is it, where's that come from? Like, is it a scientific thing? Is it something that like is a known thing? What's that about? Like 3 weeks?
Yeah. So it actually happens. I call it like the rule of 3. So it actually happens in 3. So there's 3 hours, which is like where like buyer's remorse will start coming in. There's 3 days, and then there's 3 weeks. And that's usually where people like, that's how like their timelines work. And it's like, it's a scientific thing, but it's really weird as to why it happens. But usually for the people who need an external form of accountability, they start dropping off because they can only hold themselves accountable for those 3 weeks, which I think is pretty on par with like that 21 days to build a habit. Yes. And so that's what happens. And so I see it. I'll see like the 3 days, and then it's just like the people that were really active on day 1 and day 2 won't be as active after day 3. And then the same with week 3.
And what I think is absolutely invaluable in this process is that they can speak to you in the group and get answers sort of, I don't want to say in real time. Obviously, you're not sitting there, excuse me. I have such a cough this week. Okay. You're not sort of sitting there hovering over the Facebook page, waiting to see if somebody's comments. So obviously you're living as well. But within a timely manner, you're going to get back to things that are blocking them in that moment. Sort of how valuable is that? What do you see people move through and sort of how quickly?
Yeah, it actually works out really, really well. So we'll even have back and forth conversations throughout the chat, or throughout the comments in the section, and give you points of view for how to look through and how to work through other things. And I'll typically give you steps as well, and those tangible steps in the comments of, if this is what you're struggling with, start with this, start with this, start with this. And then they have time to go and process. And that's actually really beneficial because I'm 7 hours behind everybody in the UK. So I could go through and answer all those questions. So you wake up to new information as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I see, I hope you don't mind me saying it, but I do want to point it out because I want people to get the absolute most out of this experience, is that people can argue back a bit. So you can give somebody tips, you can give somebody advice, but I'm not saying they want to stay stuck, but they kind of sometimes don't always take on board what you're saying. What is that? What is that people do? And because I want them to come in and be like, and to trust you, because I know the value of just following the advice. So what do you think makes people come back a little bit?
There's a couple different things. One, sometimes they just have, and I'm like this too, sometimes we just have a hard time hearing a hard truth. And I always like to say, like, I'm not a baker. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you what I see, and you can interpret it how you want, in the sense of, is this accurate for you? Does this resonate with you? Or is it just like a thread that you're going to start pulling to see where it's going to lead you? Those types of things. But sometimes too, with that fight back, is there's like a form of, I don't want to say like denial, but there's a form of denial because you don't know if there's anything actually wrong, or that doesn't seem to be what the problem is. Because we tend to think that we know what the problem is, but then other people from outside can see what the actual problem is. And so they'll fight back a little bit, because it's also like a little bit of a victim mindset in a positive way, but a victim mindset of, it's their justification to give them permission to say no and not do the thing, which is like our like survival ability when we were super uncomfortable with things.
And I think people, let's be honest, at times are going to become uncomfortable going through this process. And you need to become uncomfortable, because if you just want comfort, you're saying that you're happy staying where you are, in which case this is pointless, right? Because this is for people who want to do more, be more, like become more, achieve more, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you, earn more. And so I think I just wanted to let people know that you are going to challenge, you are going to flip the switch on their thinking. You're going to sometimes make them a little bit uncomfortable, but all of those things are to get them moving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost my job to like invalidate with being kind about it.
But you are kind. I've never seen any unkindness, not at all. In fact, I think you're just one of the most loved people in this world, in these programs. And I know that you are. And so I just think this is a real, I don't think people realize how much of a treat this is. So I just wanted to say, as your fangirl, I'm absolutely over the moon that you are doing this in Velocity. And I think everyone is so blinking lucky. So that is all from me, Renee. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to me. And we will be seeing you inside Velocity.
Perfect. Thank you.
And everybody, don't forget to book in for a chat if you would like more information. And I will be seeing you for more interviews, more talks, and more things to do with Velocity over the next few days. Bye for now.
Bye.